I will call I will call the April 20th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission to order. Do a roll call to. So Sue Rich. Here. Ed Kestner.
Here.
Bill Hanson.
Here.
Beverly Tucker Knight.
But I don't count towards your quorum.
You don't count toward the quorum. Okay. I will, Maxine.
Here.
And you don't count toward the quorum either. Okay, I will, based on the roll call, we have a quorum. So we'll move forward. Beverly, do we have anyone online that might be wanting to speak to us?
We do not.
Okay. We'll go on. Beverly, are there any written communications?
There are not.
Okay. In your packet, toward the back, I think, there are minutes of the February 16th meeting of the commission. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to see those, review them. Are there any updates or any corrections that need to be made to the February 16th minutes? If not, I will call for a vote on approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, they are approved. Okay, we have special guests tonight. We have folks from the Fitzer Company who have been retained by the City of Olivet to help us in naming and creating an identity for the new community center. So I will turn it over to Beverly and she can do introductions and we will go from there.
Great. Thank you very much. I am very pleased to introduce tonight Amy Pfister and Kristen Templin from Pfister Inc. As you all remember, we used a Pfister when we designed our Parks Master Plan, which you see up here, which tied into the city's logo and branding guidelines. And it represents our 5 parks using the oak symbol from landscape architecture. And the sizes of the 5 circles represent the sizes of each of the Olivet parks. So it's a wonderful logo. It served us very well throughout the entire Park Master Plan process. So when it came time to find a company to help us on the next portion of our journey, it made a lot of sense to go with Pfister because they also created the template for the activity guide in the Parks and Recreation Department, again, following the city's brand guidelines. And then they also created the template and format for the Olivet Life newsletter. So we have a good relationship with them and they really have delivered for us beautiful products that really match our branding and our mission. So I want to kind of remind everyone how we got to where we are tonight. And as you recall, as we've gone through our Park Master Plan updates the last several months, in coming up with a name for the community center, And in talking about the identity of it, we started out with a very small internal team. I'm sure all of you have worked on teams that were really large and had trouble coming to a consensus. So our plan we set out back in, I believe, November, we started with a very tiny internal team of myself and Pfister. Then we enlarged, we came up with about 15 names, and we winnowed it down over time to 7. And then the core team expanded to myself and the city manager. And then we whittled it down further to 5. And then we expanded it to Maxine and to Jim. And we whittled it and honed it down over several meetings down to 1 with a couple twists. So that is where we are tonight. And for the rest of it, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen and to Amy. Did I leave anything out?
No, I think
Okay,
you covered
awesome.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.
One thing that I would add is that there will be ample opportunity for feedback.
Okay, so I'm Kristen Templin of the Pfister Group. This is Amy Pfister. And we are here to share the concepts for the new community center, the name and the logo, which is super exciting. As a quick recap, I know that you're all aware of this, but 2 years ago, the residents of Olivet passed Proposition C to fund the Parks master plan for the park improvements in the new community center. So we've been charged with coming up with an identity for the community center, and that starts with name and logo. Before we get to the concepts, the really fun stuff, I want to note just some of the key elements that informed our strategy. You're already familiar with the Parks and Recreation, the mission and the vision. I'm not going to necessarily read them to you, but I do want to point out that the vision in particular really embodies what we have learned about the community center and what it's going to be. It's striving to enrich community members through active participation and lifelong learning, health and wellness, community involvement, and recreational activities. So I just want you to keep that in mind, because as it comes to life in the identity, I do think what we've done embodies that. In addition, we would be remiss if we didn't consider the target audience, and that includes the Olivet residents and businesses, Ladue School District, University City, Elmwood Park, Creve Coeur, 39 North, and Overland. So we really looked at who are we targeting in terms of who's going to know about this, and more importantly, who's going to participate. In our many conversations with Beverly and her team, we've learned about the community center and its key brand attributes. So those are those distinct qualities that make it unique, that kind of what you want to be known for, what you're going to stand for. So I've listed some of them to include, like, celebrate the park setting. It's in one of the parks. Bring the outdoors in, creating this sense of community, the open floor plan, versatility of use for events and all kinds of different activities. Lifelong learning opportunities for all ages. Again, if you think back to the vision, that just really connects to that. And then some unique amenities such as a coffee station, a learning kitchen, indoor walking trail. To us, this really is the opportunity to for the Olivet Community Center to reimagine what a community center is. You know, I will be honest, when we first started talking to Beverly, I said, so it's going to be a place for working out. That's sort of what my impression was for a community center. And this is so much more than that. So this is a really big opportunity for Olivet to be like, no, we're reshaping what it is to be a community center. So that's kind of all of the setup. Now we get to go to the fun stuff, but Amy gets that part.
Good evening. Okay, so what you're going to be seeing in the next section of this is that you'll see the name, and it won't be designed. So you'll really see the name and kind of take on what is that? What are those words? I'm going to give you the rationale for how we came up with those. There are 3 different logos and each one of those have rationale. And then what we're going to do is, so I'll go through all of those and at the end we'll have a slide that has all of them side by side. So then we can begin the feedback conversation once it's all in and complete. Okay. Okay, so here we go. The full name. So the full name we're recommending is 5 Oaks on Warson. So what I would ask also, just for yourself, and again, for the feedback, just note your gut response. There'll be a response that you have right away. Yay, no, good, bad. Just to kind of note it so that when we keep building on what it's created from and how somebody else will see and hear it, it's good to kind of have what that's in mind. So 5 Oaks on Warson. So 5 Oaks, I'm breaking this down into 2 sections, the actual name. So what would the name, oh, I should, there you go. The 5, we got references to 5 parks. It connects all of them to the community center. So that's really at the center, really. The oak is a Missouri native. It symbolizes strength and longevity, which is who you are, who you'll be, that it's going to be there for years to come. There's a large pin oak tree in the close proximity to the community center. So kind of a visual identity to it as well, to the name. And mostly it's easy to say, you can remember it, and it's unique to Olivet. Okay, so the on Warson. So this is for the descriptor. What we really looked at was it promotes the physical address. So there's a place that it actually, you know where it's going to be. It adds flair for the event communications. And it's distinct from what, as Kristen mentioned, what an expected community center is. So it allows us in all of our communications to shape what that is so that we can really define it as we go along with the rest of the promotion materials that we do. Anything that we do, we'll build on that and define it for our audience. Okay, so here's the first logo. So I'm gonna let you just look at that for a second and kind of take it in. So let me walk through what those elements actually are. So what we wanted for this one is that it's clean and bright. We've got this single tree that's with the multicolored leaves. That idea of it being in the center is that really that it is the center. It's the center for the parks. It's the center for people to gather. So the word center really is a component, and it represents the diversity and the expanding community. So all the leaves, those are your colors. It can be tree and it can be expansion of people's participation. So there's community is said in leaves and in shape. So it takes on that abstraction. All the concepts, but I pointed it out here, we are building on the brand that already exists. So the fonts and the colors are all part of your identity. So we're really building on what you've got, but it's got to have its own flavor with this sort of mark that is central here. Okay, this next one. So the next one we move to the idea. So you can look at this one for a minute. Okay. So clearly it's the same feel in terms of clean and bright. And what we were, the subtle difference between it was actually having, the tree is actually integrated into the word as opposed to focusing on the center. So the idea that it's, we are diverse, we're integrated, it's an expanding community, but it's actually woven into the word itself as opposed to being the sort of symbol of the tree in the center. So distinct one to the other. All right, and the third one. Again, I'll let you take a look and just breathe with it for a second. So this one, in contrast to the sort of clean and simple and welcoming of the first 2 marks, this one brings on it's a richness and elegance with its saturation of colors. The trees made up of 5 colors. You can see that they come together to actually come together like a community, and yet it's diverse colors, so they're all different. The fonts are the same with the bold weight font of the Olivet, so there's strength in that. We kind of pull on the Oaks part with that strength of the type. And then the on Worsen is handwritten. So it says people, this is about you. This is about being able to participate. So it's really people driven. So those are the three. And I'll put those up that we've got them, see them side by side. You can see the differences between them. And then we can kind of sit with this for a second. And Jim, when you're ready, we can chat further. And I'm here for any kind of questions or.
What the feedback, what we're looking for on this is feedback to try to understand what your reaction is, because I mean, clearly you haven't had this for very long, and just gut level reactions and what we can be doing to make it. What is the initial feedback that we have? And what's going to happen is Beverly and Jill are going to take this and we'll put it down, and then we'll go to it, and then we'll have an opportunity to do feedback, to leave here and think about it. And we're asking for feedback by next Wednesday, because then we need to move on to the council and get their reactions to that. So what feedback do people have?
I think that one piece was left out that's important. So something that came up at our first initial meeting was we talked about what some of the names were around this community and how other communities that people aren't using the word. That if you look at top of your head, but like
That was
Richmond
the
Heights.
lodge.
The pair,
Yeah.
I forget what place.
The height, the center of
The
Clayton,
center of Clayton.
the heights.
The heights is Richmond Heights. I mean, people are using new names to represent the community. And that's where part of this conversation came from, was something to, as you said earlier on, to brand all of that, and to brand this building in this facility. But I think it's important to say, we're thinking along the same lines, doing something that's going to last.
So can I ask a question about that then real quick? So all the examples you gave have the name of the city within that. And so this, all the examples you gave have the name of the city within it, and this one obviously does not. So is there any talk about, I know the street Warson, people are familiar with that, but that also, it runs through a lot of communities. How did this name come to represent all of that? Like taking all of that out of the name, how, I'm wondering if anyone thought about how that would carry. I'm not sure I make myself.
Would you like me to
I
take
mean,
that?
okay,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah, no problem.
and so
We-
there's
we
probably
did-
tons of conversation.
Yeah, we did talk about it. One of the things, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but one of the things we really talked about is where is it physically located? Because, make sure I'm talking in the mic. Because those of you that have volunteered at the community center know the confusion that we have from the public of understanding what is the city center and what is the community center. And we also, in our current location, have difficulty people understanding where Warson Park is and where Grandview is. So the new community center is located in Warson Park, and that's on Warson Road. So it really can tell you immediately where in all of that it's located. And it's important that it's north of Olive, as a location. It's very important that that's where it is. So I think that Warson is very powerful because you can immediately, when you say on Warson, in your mind, you can visualize what part of all of that is. And it's in the park itself called Warson Park. So I think that it's powerful in helping people understand, because I cannot tell you how many people come here on Dealman thinking this is the community center, particularly we have the community rooms here. Some of the other cities do have their city in their name. However, many do not. So there are others that don't. So, the Heights doesn't have their name in it, the Timbers doesn't have their name in it. So, but I also want to kind of think about what we're doing and maybe not think about what the other cities are doing, because we are unique. We are all of that. And the other thing is, this doesn't stand alone. The address is there. So if you're getting a written communication, all of that is in the address. It's also our logo of the Olivet Parks and Recreation Department will be there as well. So this is the sign on the building and it'll be on the brochure, but all of that will be also there as well. So I don't think there'll be any, I don't think people will, if they receive a communication from us, I don't think there'll be any confusion that this is all of that. And I probably overextended my time, so that I'll just leave it with that.
We'll be.
Okay,
informal. Yes,
first meeting, so I want to make sure I'm not.
Sure.
overstepping. So I guess my first question. With our other branding, and I'm far from a branding expert, but I'm kind of looking like at the master plan logo and, on our agenda,
Yep.
where it's got like two different colors within, like the city of, within Olivet or within, Olivet master plan. But on the Five Oaks, it doesn't follow that theme. Was there a reason we didn't kind of follow that variance of color like we are on other areas within Olivet?
Within the typography itself, is that what you're asking?
Within the font, that's probably not the correct
No,
technical
no,
word, but yes.
that's accurate. I think what I was looking to do is we were able to springboard from the brand itself. It still follows the brand in terms of color and font, but being able to have the focus on the mark, that we have a mark, it lets the less competition when you've got more color happening within the words themselves. How I broke it up instead was being able to have, so the Five Oaks was the dark and the on Warson was the lighter green, similar to how it's done in the other versions. So it's represented, but it's one step further, which was really what we were looking to take this whole entity as sort of one step further. So it's brand grounded and it's expanded.
There's also, the brand has a color palette. So the colors that are represented are part of the palette, even though they aren't in the actual font, the logo for all of it. So it's, otherwise everything becomes a little bit monotone. So this gives it a little bit of variety, a little personality.
Thank you.
Right. The two-tone in the Main City logo as well is to emphasize the live. So live live in the center. So that's kind of that play in there. And that's why we are required by our brand guidelines to always show that unless it's white on black.
Which even then, it still shows a little bit
It
different.
does. Well, yeah, because that's a color version. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great grayscale of the color version. Yeah.
Sue, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't particularly care for two, but I'm a symmetry person. So it's just personal preference more than anything else. I think they're two good choices. They're very different in my opinion. I don't know. The one other question I have, are we planning on mapping a color to each park? We're going to use the same logo at each park, or we're going to use the master plan logo?
I'm not sure I understand your question. So you mean on the signs at the parks?
Yeah.
The signs at the parks will be the wayfinding signs that you already approved. So this logo will not be on the
Can you
park
remind
signs.
me what they look like?
Yes. Well, those are the
The entry sign.
the entry signs. The park signs are long and linear. They're in your park master plan update. You can see one in the sample of the sign. It's on page. Yeah, tonight's handout on. I apologize. It's on page 2. If you look at and I apologize to everyone following from home, the page 2, it shows the signs that are at
Can
the
you hold up
parks.
what page 2 is? Because I don't see numbers.
This is page 2. Yeah, this is page 2. Yes. So in the lower left-hand corner of the map of Warson Park, you can see the new park sign. So the city logo is in those signs as the O in the legs. And then the type of the park is the city font. And then the green of the sign is the city green, but it does not have a logo on it.
Okay.
This sign, if this logo would be on the main sign for the new community center, which is yet to be designed, that it'll be designed to the wayfinding standards. It'll be a monument sign. And then this will be on communications regarding the community center itself. The department will still use its logo separate from this.
So I'm assuming, so the employees will have logo, it'll be
Yes.
It'll be this
so
logo? What-
Employees will have on their shirts in the community center, they would have this logo or a subset of it. But staff also would wear, like in the parks, they'd probably still wear the city logo.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it'll be one of the two.
Correct.
That's, so my only initial impression is I wish they were somehow tied together. I'm not sure if that's possible.
That's what it seems like we have
Two,
multiple, well, yeah, we've got City of Olivet, we've got Parks and Rec, we have park signage, which we'll eventually have, and then something specific for Five Oaks, sorry, it'll take me a minute to get its name right.
Mm-mm.
So it just seems like a lot to take in, it's kind of tie together.
Mhm.
They all have the same font and they all have this, they all have the same color palette. Right now, the parks use the city logo on all the trucks. It's the city
Mhm.
logo.
That makes sense, it's the
Yeah.
city truck.
Yeah, city truck, and it says Olivet, and under it says Parks and Recreation. Actually, it says olivetparksandrecreation.com because it's our web address under there. And right now, the department uses the city logo on everything. We use the park master plan logo on everything that's tied to the park master plan itself. So it could be that the Parks and Recreation Department continues to just use the city logo, or it could be that the Parks Master Plan logo morphs into more of the department logo, but that we have not discussed that. That's something I've been thinking about, but that has not been approved by the city manager. We have not done that. So that's just something I'm thinking about. But
So,
it's not approved.
so my,
Yes, it is. It's Kristen. It's
Kristen over
me.
there.
Oh, you and the city
It's
of
me.
Olivet.
Yeah, yeah, it's me. So I'm logged in as myself so I can make sure I see what the public sees.
So my initial gut from historical perspective, there's been a question in the past of the parks being owned by the city and identified as a city park. So that's where that tie
Yes.
comes in.
Absolutely. And the wayfinding we have will go up through it starts in the parks and then it spreads through the whole city. Because we went through that whole issue with the Parks Master Plan when and Sue and Ed were here from the beginning, where we learned in our very initial survey that nobody knew that the city had 5 parks and they didn't know where they were. So that's why the very first project that came out of the Park Master Plan was the wayfinding, and it'll finally be implemented through the Prop C. And it starts at each city park, and then it'll progress through the rest of the city.
As I recall, that's going to be a long-term
It is.
project.
It's a long-term project. Through the capital improvement plan.
Other questions? Sue, or questions, comments? So I know you mentioned that you like the symmetry of A and B.
Yeah. That's just a personal.
Other
preference.
other thoughts in terms of from folks as far as is the different types you preference or?
Yeah, sure. I personally really like the first two. The third one, it's so different. Maybe I would like that if I saw different versions of it. I don't know. They're so different. And I know that I feel like it's got a paddle feel to it. not a tree feel to it like the other two. And I do like the center one a lot more. I like that layering of meaning. I
Mhm.
think is really cool. And I was going back and forth in my head too, and I think I do like the overlapping with the O. I was trying to envision it was the other way around. One of the things I think that I'm leaning more towards the first one than the second one is that F and that O really are standing out kind of all by itself.
Yep.
And I like that center tree now is kind of helped push that back a little bit and created a little bit of layering,
Yep.
which I think is kind of exciting. I personally, I think, and it's not because it's the first one you showed us.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that. I think if you showed it to me last, I think that would be the choice that I would have of the three.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions though, hard to know. How does this read in black and white? Although, I mean, I know the logo when it's up, it will be in color,
Right.
but also oftentimes in communications and that, how does it read? That would be one. Then the other question I have, and it's just a question. I understand, I think visually why the 4 leaves are there. It makes that tree look fuller, makes it look more like a tree. Absolutely. But going along with the layers of meaning, then I start to think, well, if the colored leaves have meaning, then the 4 leaves must have meaning.
Yeah.
What could those be? Now that could be kind of cool too. You can sit there and you can make up all kinds of stuff, right? Try to figure it out. But it would that exactly right. That's exactly right. But I'm wondering if there is something. I don't know. Maybe there is.
Well,
Or isn't.
I'll
Maybe
tell
it's
you-
kind of fun.
I'll tell you, the
Right?
thinking that I had when I did it
Okay.
was that really were the colors were the people, was the community. And the leaves themselves brought in the nature aspect of it. So that they're all green starts to bring in the park feel. When somebody, since we don't say park and it's not, we're saying 5 Oaks, but it underscores the tree itself. So they kind of move one into the other, which were people and trees. And that to me was how I came up with those.
Okay, because I was thinking that the 5 colors were representing the 5 different parts. I think that goes back to Sue's original comment. Then
Yeah.
are these, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, that those colors then were related to those specific parts. If that's one of the things we were thinking of doing. But so that's how I thought about it at
Which is
first.
great. I
Which-
mean,
But- So then
yes.
it made me wonder what the 4 leaves then
Yes.
would be. But the idea of it being a representation of all different types of people
Yeah.
is really cool too.
Well,
So,
thanks. And to your question about once a logo is picked, we'll definitely make sure we have a black and white version, we have a gray version so that everything is readable and seeable, no matter how we're implementing the logo.
Okay.
And I guess as far as like the last one, I like A better. I like how the tree in the middle, I think, goes with how we highlight live
Mhm.
and all of that. And then, quite honestly, when I saw B, I'm just like, it didn't sit well with me.
That's good. You said first,
Yeah,
really.
no,
it's the
that
kind of
was my.
thing.
It's kind of like, what does that have to do with all of that?
Right.
I don't know if the paddles remind me of school or what. But it's,
Oh, dear.
It just, yeah. But I think 1 fits in more with the Olivet and like how we highlight again the different fonts and things.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and the second one is definitely more abstract. So that's really, we purposefully wanted you to be able to have a real choice, like a not just a subtle difference. I know between 1 and 2 is subtle, but being able to really say, which direction do you want this to go in? It's bright and clean and welcoming. It's rich and warm and welcoming. So I'm glad you can, decide for yourselves which direction is who we say you're gonna be.
Other comments? As far as looking, I'm picking up a consensus of the first logo is that as we begin to make recommendations, I think that is really because we make recommendations to the council, and then the council will have a similar kind of a discussion.
Right.
Yeah,
And not saying that this is the one that.
sure. Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know, if I've had a method to the madness.
Yeah, we had a method to the madness. We were trying to avoid a situation of a line in the sand.
Mhm.
So this same presentation will be given to the council and we'll gather their feedback and then we'll share the park commission feedback. So that
Okay.
it's kind of a clean process. We want to avoid we really want to keep it collegiate and not feel like one's being swayed by the other. So we're growing and learning from our pavilion experience.
I stand corrected.
Right. But as we moved through this process, one of the things we did at each stage was we sat with it for a while. And you're all seeing it tonight for the first time. And this presentation won't go to the council until their study session, the first May 3rd. So you have, a week, as Jim said, keep thinking about it and reach out to me if you want to see it again. We're not sharing, it's in a public meeting, it's in the recording, so people can see it. But we're not putting it out on the website. We're still kind of keeping it so that we have a chance to think about it and sit with it and not say, hey, this is absolutely it. So I want you to really think about it. I think we can share it electronically, right? I can share it with the commissioners. Yeah, I think we can for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, because you can share this presentation with me.
Mhm.
Yeah, because my staff haven't seen it yet. And tomorrow I have an all hands meeting with them and I'm going to share it with them, but I wanted you to see it first. But then before it goes to council, I really want the staff to be able to see it. I just think it's important for them to feel like they're, that they're coming along the ride with us, in the journey with us. I will gather their feedback, but again, I won't share with them your feedback. So
Can I ask
yeah.
one more question? You mentioned it's going to be on the building of the community center. Do we know
Pardon?
it's going to be on the building at the community center?
We don't know yet if it'll be on the building. So I kind of have a knee-jerk reaction to not have it on the building, because if there's something on the building, I kind of want it to be art, but I don't know if we can do that. It's not in our budget. So at this time, it would be probably on the doors. And there'll be directional signs in the park, the wayfinding signs in the park, but I'm not really sure yet. We have a place where it could go, but we did a lot of value engineering on that community center, and it's not in the budget right now to have this on the building itself.
There will be a monument sign with
Yes.
this on it on Warsaw,
Correct.
right at the entrance.
There will be, and there'll be wayfinding signs on the Greenway and in Warson Park to direct people to it. We'll have to be creative, and it may turn out that we need to put one on the building, and then that'll have to go through the capital funding project, because it's not part of the project right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that Bill already did something. I think talk about it well. Checking out the room and doing an invitation. With some words and, they may for the value is. And I think that as on board and yeah, absolutely. And we know that organically nicknames will grow out of it. I know that I have some guesses on what my staff may do, particularly my creative camp staff may come up with, because there's ones I've been kind of thinking about. And one of the things we do with our telephone training is when people answer the phone at the community center, they always say good morning or good afternoon. And they say that first because people don't hear that when you're calling somewhere. They miss the first words of when there's a greeting. So we always have that as a buffer, and then we say all that community center. So it'll be the same thing. The new center, it'll be good morning, 5 Oaks on Warson. And over time, they can drop the on Warson, but they'll always have that good morning, and they'll always have the 5 Oaks. Yeah, and they're on the activity guides too. So yeah. Mhm.
And we're talking about logo.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess where I'm still hung up, and it's not, it's on the words, and I'm bouncing in my head as we're talking, although I'm clearly listening to everybody else.
Yeah.
Between on Warson, Warson and in Warson, I guess is where, because I'm trying to think, because I live south of Olive.
Okay.
And so to me, and Warson's a long road that goes.
Yeah.
So is like where, and isn't Stacy Park, isn't the western border on Warson?
Yes.
So, I mean, for somebody that doesn't know where the community center is, or even where Warson Park is, which I was one of those people up till about a year ago.
Right.
That doesn't help much. But then when I think in Warson, okay, now there's also a city of Warson.
Right.
So that can go back to, I guess that's where I get hung up, which I don't know, it has much to do with the title, but just, or the logo, but that kind of,
Right.
I keep wrapping my head around that.
Right. Well, I think one of the things you can, again, a logo itself won't do everything.
Yeah.
You know, so that you can count on it will be with supportive language that people will be sure they know where they're going and specifically where they're going and that it's a community center. It's like we can kind of fill in those sort of questions with everything that it's, anything that it's attached to or with or in, you know, on the website or so forth. So I think in that way, it'll fill in and you won't have somebody be stuck with just this by itself.
Which makes sense.
Well, thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And we'll stay tuned.
Indeed, we will be here.
Yeah, 7 o'clock in this room. Right?
Right.
Right, right. And then I'm going to see if the commissioners who weren't here tonight, if they're available, I will share with them. I'm going to try and do a Zoom with all three of them at the same time, if we can get them all a consensus of time, so that they also get an opportunity. But it may not happen, but I'm going to reach out to each of them and see if they can come in and see me or have a Zoom.
And can you move to the larger?
Yes,
to
I
us,
can.
please? Okay. Thank you. We will let you go on with your lives. Okay. Next order of business is the director's report.
You. The quick minute.
Thank you.
I apologize, I did not have the director's report pulled up. Oh. I do not have access to the director's report from this computer. Oh, wait, it's on the website. Please stand by. There we go.
Right there.
Director's report. Yay. I want to make sure that everyone on Zoom can see it too. I have to share my screen in order for everyone in Zoom to see it. So it'll just take me a quick minute. Share. Okay. There we go. All right. It is there.
Do you
and
want
then
to
can all
do
see
you
it
want to
too.
go full screen on the report?
Well,
You can do that up at the top, I think. Close enough.
I think that's as
Yeah.
good as it gets.
Okay.
PDFs are the trouble. So I wanted to share with you what we're looking at towards the next year. We're currently creating the budget for next fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends on June 30th. New one begins July 1st. And we also are looking at what we can do the remainder of the year. We had hoped to do another large scale event before the end of the year, but logistically, we either have a park or we have a parking lot, but we don't have a park and a parking lot together that would accommodate a large event. So sadly, we are resigned to the fact we will not be able to do that. However, We are going to offer the citywide garage sale, June 25th and 26th. Information will start going out on that shortly. We'll be hosting another Kids Night Out on May 20th. And we will bring Party in the Park back in the fall. So if things go to plan and we're able to squeeze in a movie in the park in the summer, we absolutely will. So right now we have it penciled in. We're going to request funds for it. So we will be doing a star party in July 2022. We're doing it at Warson this year, not Stacy, because we are just unsure. We believe the parking lot will be open at Stacy at that time. If it is, we will relocate it back to Stacy, but right now we're saying it'll be at Warson, but we haven't released this to the public yet. So we don't want to confuse anybody, but right now we have it as Warson. It'll be at Stacy if we can. We're required to do one every year because of our certification of Stacy Park as an urban dark sky location, but we also just want to do it. We want to do it because it's really fun and people love it. Olivet Night Out is, the date is yet to be determined. We are looking at this as a potential for the staff to, the whole Parks and Rec staff to go and bring information about the new center and the parks. I think it would be great, but I have to also bring that to the city manager and to the other department heads. It may not be the right venue for us for that, but I have started the conversation on that. We will be doing a movie in the park in August. Again, we'd like to do it at Stacy. We may do it at Warson, so that's why it's a TBD there. We will do Party in the Park in Stacy in September. So the restrooms will be reopened to the public in time for soccer. So we really think we can do a Party in the Park light and celebrate parts of that. The pavilion itself will not be completed until the beginning of November. So that is why we're holding off on doing a really big shindig out there. Then we'll do the second citywide yard sale of the calendar year in September. And then we may also, depending on what happens with cleaning out the old community center, we could potentially have the community center be one of the sales and we could be selling old stuff. We have to also check with the finance department about that, but we have a lot of clutter that people may find to be treasure-like that we could sell. We will be, some of the things we have in the center, we will be trying to auction off through gov deals and other ways. So a lot of the kitchen equipment we think may be pretty high. We could maybe get some good money off the stainless steel components in there. The Great Olivet Clean Out will be in October. This is our shred event, the drug drop off, and the e-waste recycling. Last year we did it at Warson. We hope in October that it'll be back at Stacy. So that's what we're targeting right now, to have it back at Stacy. It's outgrown here. When we used to hold it here, it's outgrown that, and the cars backed up out onto Olive, which is why we really would prefer to move it back to Stacy because the parking lot can accommodate people much better. The Harvest Festival will be at the old community center, and this will be our final farewell swan song at the old community center. And because of where it's situated, the hayride is going to go down to the new community center. So the fencing we believe will still be up, the construction fencing, because we don't take possession of the building until December. But the greenway portion should be substantially completed by then. And we do think that the hayride will be able to go down there. And it's a really great opportunity for people to get a sneak peek if they haven't seen it before. And then we plan to have big displays about what's happening and have some preliminary program flyers available and really be able to tell people what's happening in the new center. We'll be very close at that stage. November, we're not doing anything. We'll be packing. And December, we won't be doing anything. We'll be moving and then learning. The staff's going to be learning all sorts of things. What we are envisioning right now with the opening events, rather than doing one giant grand opening, we are right now looking at having a series of events. So initially having a soft opening, so we kind of test things out. The staff gets an opportunity to see how the building works. And we are launching into all new programs that we've never offered before, particularly with the fitness center and everything else. So we're really looking at ways we can bring it in. One of the things we're really thinking about is, our art gallery that we had such a great program in the old community center. The new community center has that art gallery again. So initially, one of those good kickoff events would be the artist reception when we open the art gallery. And that's a great way for us to kind of test things out. And then also have things in the kitchen, have things in the indoor playground. So kind of bring in different age groups, different demographics. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've requested a substantial sum of money from the city council, from the budget process. The city manager looks at it first. So, and then we'll also be looking for maybe some sponsorships of some of the things. So the staff will be coming up with some pretty creative events ideas. Kids Night Out is in March. I converted this in Excel into words. You can see Excel had a problem there. That is March 2023 in code. Then the long postponed pause in the park at Irvside will be in April. And, the dog park's getting totally renovated. So that'll be a fantastic kickoff for that in the spring. Bring another Kids Night Out in April. The Holy Festival will be coming back next year. We're very excited about that. Then the citywide garage sale, then have a real party in the park with all the bells and whistles in May, because everything will be 100% done by then. And then the family overnight coming back in June. So that is the year in a nutshell. And as with anything, there's a lot of unknowns in here. And if, we always come up with new ideas and pop things in as well. So we'll continue to have that flexibility.
Beverly,
Yes.
I know these are the special events, but with youth sports and basketball and so forth, when do we anticipate that that's going to, are we going sometime in February?
It'll be absolutely the same schedule. So
Same schedule as we have.
yeah,
been.
basketball kicks off in January. We'll be able to do that again in the new center. So that'll be one of those big events that we'll have.
Okay.
Then soccer is be the same. So we have another detailed special event calendar where we put all the programs in it as well. It's premature for me to share that, but you'll see that in a couple months.
So Beverly,
Yes.
Turkey Trot is not on here.
Turkey Trot, because Turkey Trot is it's not sponsored by the Parks and Rec
Okay.
Department. Yeah.
So will it be able to take place in
It
Stacy?
absolutely
Okay.
will. That is why we know that the pavilion will be completed by
checking.
November. And that's why we ordered the pavilion before we even had a general contractor selected, because it's already in production.
Okay.
Yeah, but it won't
That's
arrive
what I thought, but I
until
wanted to
summer.
make sure.
Yeah, yeah. What? Yes. Yeah, they're not special events either. I'm sorry. They're special to me.
Oh, to some of us, they
Yeah,
are.
they're very special to me, but they aren't necessarily, we don't necessarily get a huge attendance out here for them. This is an exciting thing. Ready
I'm sorry,
Readers.
before you, or
Sure.
do you want us to wait till you're completely done? Like we asked a question on this section, or do you want?
Yeah,
us to-
sure, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I wanted to know a little bit more about the soft openings, like how does
Yes.
that look, especially compared to how it was done for this building?
Yes.
So what do you think?
This building, they moved in and people were in here for a couple of months before they did a big grand opening. We don't have that luxury. We need to open to the public within just I hope between 2 or 3 weeks of us moving into the building. So here, everyone got settled, they unpacked, they had time to learn the spaces, and then they brought the public in a very controlled way. Community centers, operate kind of differently. People need to come in, we need to start getting the public in as soon as possible. When this was open for business a couple weeks after people moved in as well, I think just maybe within 4 days, they weren't down very long. But as far as having a big blowout grand opening, there's so many different people we want to bring in. We could still have a big event, but I really think that we need to have a series of smaller ones before we do anything big. And it doesn't preclude us having one, but we absolutely have to have those soft, small things, because there's a lot more moving parts for people to touch and feel. Here, it's a very controlled environment. People walk through offices, but we have the indoor playground, we have the dance studio, we have the gymnasium, we've got the learning kitchen, we've got the multipurpose room. So each one of those is an event space in itself. So by having something that highlights and showcases one section at a time is kind of what we're thinking. And then we could have a big blowout, but I'm a little nervous about that.
So I guess that was part of my question is that.
Yeah.
Is an open house considered a big blowout? So
An
I think
open
like the
house
diff-
isn't,
like the
no.
di- like the difference I'm thinking about it
Yeah.
with this place is that the public for the one time and for most of us, the only time we were allowed in spaces that we're just not allowed in.
Right, right.
Community center is different. Other than your offices, really the whole place is for the community.
Correct,
And if you have
absolutely.
one event there, they're still walking through everything
Yes.
already. And I know that with any new building, I mean, there's always, I mean, a house goes up in your neighborhood, you just die and you would
Oh,
love
yeah.
to go and just take a tour
Oh,
of it,
yeah.
right?
That's why when houses go
Um,
for sale, most of the people at the open house are the neighbors. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Go to
Yeah.
Zillow.
Real estate agents love us. But so I was just wondering, is
Yeah.
that considered kind of a soft event where there's nothing, where it's just, you just a walk through, you're literally walking a walking
Right.
path maybe.
Well, I'm really
Um,
hoping that we'll be able to do some tours before that, but I just don't know. It really depends on when we take possession. We just don't know yet,
Okay,
you know?
fair enough.
But this isn't hard. I mean, nothing's set in stone yet. I'm just putting it out there. So I think
Okay.
we're getting staffed up too. Right now, we don't have any, we don't have any of
Yeah.
the workers. We're hiring 2 new supervisors. They're the ones that are really going to be driving it. I get to sit back and kind of, throw hand grenades in at them, but they're going to be the ones driving it. So I can't wait to hear what they come up with. And then I'm also hoping that there'll be a subset of this group that will be working with them on the events. And maybe even bring in some other people from the community, because it's a community center. We need to have community stuff happening. So we can't operate in a vacuum. We can't just be the ones to dictate exactly what happens. There needs to be input.
So that's just my thought is that.
So I'm
the-
hearing that you want to be on maybe that. working group.
Oh, yeah, well, I would definitely. want to.
Okay,
I wonder if having an event where you have a small thing, it's just going to turn into that big thing you're trying to avoid. Whereas if there is something in the beginning where it is an open house and most of
Mhm.
those curiosity seekers are satiated, then when you do have like
Mhm.
this one specifically on the gym or something,
right.
then maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just my
you're
thought.
you're absolutely, we're already thinking about that. In fact, we've already told the staff that's here now, as well as the staff that are coming, that we're not going to have a manager on duty. We're going to have full-time staff on duty at night for the foreseeable future until everybody learns how everything works. So I'm sure that I'll be there almost I'm already there every evening now, but yeah, I'm already there. So, but when everything's up and running and smoothly and we understand how everything works, then we'll have a manager on duty and it'll rotate. But for the foreseeable future, we'll probably have several people there at night just because we don't know how people are going to use it, what's going to be happening. And the same thing will happen with events. It'll probably be the whole staff because we'll want them to see how do people use it? How are people walking around? We don't have a big paywall. So people are going to be able to go into these spaces. So, and it's designed specifically for that, but that operates very differently from other places where you can't go behind the wall until you pay money. And here you're allowed in to kind of, it's a community center. So it'll be very interesting. I was hoping I could follow Cokesley, but they had to cancel their grand opening 3 times with the pandemic. So we didn't really see what they did with their new building. They did a virtual grand opening and I just hope we don't have to.
I have one other question.
Yes.
So we had a groundbreaking at the community center. Are we having a ribbon cutting? And are we going to do similar dedication at each park?
We will do a dedication at each park and a ribbon cutting and celebrate it, but we're not doing the groundbreaking at each park.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it'll be easier to get people to come to the ribbon cuttings than it would be for the groundbreaking.
I just had a couple of residents asking me
Yeah.
that the work started and they were curious.
Yeah, we'll absolutely have ribbon cutting. We're going to have pent up demand for those splash pads. That's for sure. Those are going to be,
Do
and
you have-
some of them won't be done in time for this summer season.
So do you have an estimated date on each park right now?
We do. It's in your park master plan update when we get to that. Yeah, it's, I don't have a date for the ribbon cuttings. Those are not on here. They're TBD.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that perhaps at the fall events and working into next year, that we will also be giving out membership information.
We certainly
So-
will be.
So as
I'm
we-
hoping we'll be selling memberships.
Yeah,
at-
well,
at-
that's, yeah,
At the Harvest Festival. I'm really
Okay.
hoping that.
okay.
And we're really hoping to bring the haunted trail to Warson Park along at Sassafras Trail.
Okay.
Yeah. We were approached by Ready Readers. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary, and I'm very excited to say tomorrow we've got storybook walks going up at Indian Meadows and at Stacy Park. It's pretty exciting, and the books are fan-flippantastic. So I don't know if you've probably all seen Kibabi's work. He's amazing, and I'm just thrilled that he's illustrating children's books now. I was unfamiliar with Montrese, and now we're getting her book for camp. So it's pretty exciting. She has actually a couple books. Weed Warriors, sadly, we suspended Weed Warriors, same thing. We could get people in, but then we couldn't get the debris out, couldn't get the trucks in. So, but we do have volunteers that are still continuing to work and doing a lot of great work in there. And, you know, Olivet and Bloom is really helping us out as well. The city is adding Juneteenth federal holiday to the city's official observances. So we will be closing on June 20th this year. Camp will be in operation this year, but next year it will not. We didn't want to move the goalposts on the families that had already registered. So everyone will work this year, but next year we will have that be like 4th of July. It'll be in the calendar. When they register, they'll know there's no camp that day. Baseball is starting this Saturday at Warson Park. We did T-ball's already been going on and the practices have been going on. We're not using Stacy Park, but we have 150 kids on 13 teams for youth baseball right now. It's fantastic. We have 168 campers registered as of last Wednesday. And we've added early and late care back this year. So that's moving along. We've added another contract camp, AR Workshop, which is located in the Price Crossing. Is a workshop in there. We've got a camp offering with them. So now we have 6 specialty camps.
How does that 168 compare to previous years at this time?
It's slow compared to previous years. But the pandemic years have all been strange. I anticipate next year we'll be back to our regular releasing camp information in January. This year we didn't release it in January. And this is our last year of having camp in the community center. We don't know where it'll be next year. It may be back at Stacy Park. It may be a combination of places. We may be using other parks. And there may be some things in the community center and then them traveling. We're just not sure. We're going to be using this year to do a lot of focus groups with parents to find out really what are they looking for in camp? Why are they coming to camp and what works for them? Because it'll have to morph. Right now, we have a luxury of unused classrooms, but that will not be the case in the community center.
And what's the capacity?
Of what?
When would you close down registration for camp? You have 168 now.
Oh, no, we're still taking registration.
I mean, but what is that? Do you have a top number?
We do. And I believe it's 50 a week.
So that,
Yes.
yeah, there's probably some regulatory things around that.
Well, yes, and these 168 campers, there are multiple sessions. So it's, there's some kids have signed up for every single session and some sign up the week before. It really depends on what their families are doing. Olivet and Bloom kicked off on April 9th. And they only have one garden right now because veterans, you've all probably seen, they've started doing earth moving over at Veterans Garden. And the Veterans Garden crew is planning right now what they're going to order and plant. And we anticipate they'll be planted in May. And that's okay because an irrigation system will be there to keep the plants alive in the summer. Because normally we like to do plantings in the fall and the spring. Then the Stacy Park gardeners are assisting with the care of the Stacy native garden down by the pond. And they go, Brian gets them in each time and they're going to have special dashboard things for them to park in the park. We don't want anybody to get tickets. Their native plant sale is coming back this year. pent up demand, very exciting. It'll be here in the community rooms and on the patio. And they get here early because they sell out. It's very exciting. We are at high season park activities going on. The guys are getting the ball fields ready. Those of you that are familiar with Morrison Park know that Field 1 has incredible amounts of water because all the water draining off the community center flows right into Field 1. And we've got to use it because we're not using Stacy. So they've spent a lot of time trying to get that field ready. We've begun mowing. The mowers are really have a big challenge this year of getting into all the fenced off areas to mow. So a lot of those tree protection zones, the grass will get a little bit higher. They're going in there less often, and some of them actually have to be cut with weed whackers. They won't be able to get the mowers in there. So we're very fortunate that we have Vote Lawn Care this year because they know our parks and they're great. So they're up to the challenge. It will be a challenge for them. But it also is good, the less we mow, many of you know, at this time of year, the better for the insects and the pollinators. So it's beneficial in the long run. Here's pictures of Leonard and Merle putting the field conditioner out. And now I would like to introduce you to Jill Vogt. So Jill, if you'd like to, you can come up to the podium if you like. So Jill is been with us for 4 weeks.
Yep.
Yes, she's our newest employee. She's a recreation coordinator, and Jill is in charge of camps and special events. So all those special events you heard about, all me. And we are so
Yes.
fortunate. We're so fortunate to have Jill because she comes to us with a long, illustrious career of summer camps with the city of Kirkwood. And she is a teacher. She's worked preschool and elementary school age. So I'm just thrilled to have her on board, and I'll let her say a few words and then you're welcome to ask questions if you want.
Well, I'm very excited to be working with the city of Olivet. I know whenever Don called me, I had a little, oh my goodness, are you serious moment? Just like Bev said, years of working at Kirkwood camps, 34, wouldn't give it up. So I really do look forward to putting my stamp on Olivet.
Aboard.
Welcome.
you.
And
Thank you.
what we can do as a commission through Bev, and let us know.
Sounds good.
Thanks so much, Jill.
Thank you.
Great. That is my report.
Next order of business would be city council report. Maxine, what's happening?
I thought I was getting off easy tonight because when I looked at the agenda, I thought she forgot to put it in there. But and then I turned the page. So next Tuesday night, Rick Knox and Missy Waldman will be sworn in as new council members. And Sydney Clark will be completing his time as the mayor. And as far as, and then I'm in line to be the next mayor with Greg Carl being the chairman pro tem at this point in time, unless things change between now and Tuesday. As far if you look around the city, there's a lot of development going on. I know there's a lot more traffic on Olive lately because Ameren is finally at Olive Crossing, and hopefully with some of that work, there were some great aerial shots today I saw on Facebook. I know that Bev says she gave up Facebook and we should all be on Instagram, but I'm sure I think that Kiana does an amazing job, and I'm sure that we have the same pictures on Instagram as well.
Beverly, we're seeing your.
Oh. Good thing
I'm
it
not-
was in code.
Yeah.
It was just a bunch
Yeah.
of little dots. But it's just an exciting time with the city. There's a lot happening and everywhere we turn, there's like, drive around, there's more development happening and it's a good thing.
We're still seeing you.
Um,
Okay.
And there isn't anything out of the ordinary right now from the last couple meetings that I've shared.
What's happening with the Opus development and
The Opus development, the last I heard was that they finished clearing. And that's
Okay.
where they're at. And I was over there the other day. I drove down the street and I think they're just moving forward. There hasn't been a lot of new news on that development that I'm aware of.
And
Yeah,
it-
Oliver had a food truck Friday to welcome some people to, they're gonna start, they're moving right along and Plant Haven, if you look, the front brick's going up, so. And the one question I was recently asked is if Easy Storage is still going in and the intent is yes. So we haven't heard anything different since our last negotiation with them. But I think the majority of our, what's been happening has really been right here in this room with, I think of Hamilton, the room where it happened. I'll tell you, this Parks and Rec, it's a moving and a groove. And the other piece is that something just came in and out of my head that fast. Big bulk week this week, but it's been raining, so that
Right.
hasn't been as great as I anticipated, seeing people's couches out on their front lawn. But we also have, I'll come back with,
Okay,
I just lost that thought, but
Okay.
it was, but the parks is really taking up, that's what it was. We have a council retreat on April 30th. We'll be meeting here from 12:30 to 5 to start looking at budget and to look at some of, reassess our goals and objectives and all of that. So it's going to be a nice afternoon.
great. Thank you. Any questions of Maxine?
I just have my usual. Has there been any progress or any more talk about the repaving from, or right out here at Dealman?
A Firestone and Olive or?
No, I'm
right
just saying, is there any, many years ago, I thought we were in line, I thought,
That has
There's-
not been brought up as of late. I know that this walking trail that we talked about last
Mhm.
time, but from that grant that we had on the south side, that has not been revisited in a while, so I can look into that.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
add
just
to my
I'm
question.
anxious to know if the north part of Dealman, because last summer they were redoing sidewalks or to fixing the curbs and that. So
Mhm.
usually that's a prelude to a paving. And I didn't know if you had heard anything. I know it's not the city's, right? That's
Right.
not the city's responsibility.
No, not at this point in time. We've not heard anything,
Okay.
but I can look into that for you.
And then, as Maxine said, there's been a lot going on, so I will go back to Beverly and if you can give us a brief discussion of what. I know, I'm being facetious. Is that the quantities as well as there's a lot of, that, and that will be consistent throughout the whole building?
And centers. Down into the and wrap around. Plus that S shape.
And we have the pin oak right there. It's the one oak. Right. where is the stopping point of this first phase of the? Okay. Maybe you can put that on the trail. question on the parks. Indian Meadows. Are both ends of it going to close, or will it just be where they're working, where the fire trucks turn on its side? And what happens, my understanding is that Public Works is doing some kind of sewer through there. Right. Okay. Okay. So that pavilion will stay open through the construction. Right, right. Okay, so it's only 2 days. Okay. Will will there be an impact on the budget? Okay. Any other questions of Beverly on the master plan? Okay, moving forward, as I was putting the agenda together tonight with Beverly, with the naming of the discussion of the naming of the community center and the updates, we're putting commissioner reports on hold essentially until next month, just so that we're not here until 10. So, and I think also the upcoming events, I think you've gone through most of those at this point. The future agenda items is what I was referring to in terms of what we're doing. There's a group working on memorials. There's one on fees. We really haven't gotten into rental use policies and those things at this point. But so needless to say, things are moving along and we'll do things. Beverly. Okay. 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 See where we go from there. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to bring for the commission? Realizing, of course, that we have to put agenda items out, but are there any other comments that anyone has?
If you have further feedback in the next week, please send.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, if you, yes. Okay. Any other comments? In that case, I will listen to listen to a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I second the motion.
all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.